Welcome to my solar addiction. Today's video.
Best value 48-volt rack mount battery, a comparison of 10 100 amp hour batteries on the market today.
All right, today we're going to do a comparison of 10 different 100 amp hour server rack batteries that are on the market and are in somewhat close proximity in price and features. And we're going to discuss which ones I think personally are the best bang for the buck, or should I say the best value for the price is what I'm looking for. Just because something's cheaper doesn't mean it's the best value. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So it all depends on what you find important. And as we go through this, you'll see I'm going to hit on those points as we go through each battery. So without delay, let's go through alphabetically the 10 batteries that we're going to compare today. 100 amp hour server rack batteries, 48 volt. Nominal voltage is always going to be 51.2, even though they call them a 48 volt battery. Don't get confused by that. I think I just confused everyone. Let's go through each battery, starting with my personal favorite. Number one on the list is the EG4 LLS server rack battery. It's a 100 amp hour battery, 5.12 kilowatt hours, and the list price is $12.99, and that makes a price per kilowatt hour $253.71, or per amp hour $12.99. And the max amp charge is going to be 100 amps, and the max amp discharge is 100 amps. Cycles, 7,000. Now, a lot of these server rack batteries you're going to see are below 7,000, so the top cycles on this whole list is 7,000, and EG4 has 7,000 cycles listed in their manual. You can also parallel up to 64 of these, which is going to be number one on this list too. It has an LED touchscreen. It weighs 98 pounds. It has a 10-year warranty, and these are the three things that I find very important. Well, actually four. These are the four things that I find very important in any battery that I have. The EMP hardening, so that it's resistant to EMP and lightning strikes, corona mass ejection, solar flares. Total rapid shutdown, which is something total unique to EG4. I think code is going to go that way pretty soon, and I think it's smart of EG4 to get ahead of that. Fire arrestors, in other words, your battery catches on fire, you want something to put it out. I really like having that. Now, this battery doesn't have the heaters that I liked on my Powerwall batteries, but I don't really need that living here in New Orleans and southeast Louisiana. If it gets that cold, it's probably we're in nuclear winter and we're all going to die anyway, because it doesn't get that cold down here, folks. And that's also, I keep my batteries inside and not outside, even though they're outdoor rated, because of weather like rain more than anything. For me, I just don't trust having batteries out in the rain. So it doesn't have the heater, which is the only knock on this battery to me, but it has all the UL certifications as long as it's connected to the 18K PV. UL 1973, UL 9548 by itself, but also UL 9540 with the 18K PV, which would be important if you're still connected to the grid and you're going to do a hybrid situation where you may interact with the grid or actually use it as backup like I do a lot of times. The grid is backup in case something goes wrong. But I like having the connection just so that I have that option. Or if a storm's coming and my batteries were depleted because I'm trying to live off grid, I could charge them up real quick, knowing that the potential for tornadoes or something might happen and knock the power out in my area. So that's one reason why some of us still want to stay attached to the grid, even though we're trying to live as if we were off the grid. So the next one on the list is the Endure Energy ESP 5100. Now that one has a list price of $2,150. $2,150. It is 5.12 kilowatt hours and 100 amp hours. All these batteries are. And per kilowatt hour is $419.92 and $21.50 per amp hour. Boy, that's not cheap. But I'm going to explain why they think their price should be what it is as we go along. So let's continue with the specs. Max A charge, 60 amps. 60 amps versus 100 amps on the EG4. I think I like 100 amps. Max amp discharge, 60 amps. Not 100 amps. Cycles, 6,000. Max parallel, only 10. Doesn't have a display screen. It weighs 900 pounds. It weighs 92.4 pounds. It has a 10-year warranty. And guess what? It's the only other battery I could find in a server rack style that was listed as EMP hardened. That's why they charge $2,150 versus what EG4 charges for a battery with EMP hardening, $1,299. So that's a big difference, guys. I mean, let's see. You're looking at $850 you're paying for an EMP hardened battery based on what Endure Energy thinks you should be charged for the same size battery, same amperage. Well, not same amperage, and the same size battery, same, basic setup for their EMP hardened version. Now, it doesn't have total rapid shutdown. It doesn't have fire arrestors. It also doesn't have the heater either, like the EG4 doesn't. But it is UL certified for UL 1973 and UL 9540. I could not, I think Indoor Energy has their own inverter, and that UL 9540 might require you to have their inverter. I also believe they may have a deal with Solarc. I have to verify that, and I will try to look that up before I finish this whole thing. The third battery on the list is a Epoch battery, and this one is $1,299, just like the EG4. Same size, 5.12 kilowatt hours or 100 amp hours. Price per kilowatt hour is the same, $253.71, and your per amp hour is $12.99. Now, the max amp charge is only 70 amps versus 100. Same price, less amperage. Max amp discharge is the same, 100 amps. At least they got that part right. The cycles, 6,000 cycle battery lifetime, and you can parallel 32 of them. It does not have a screen. It weighs 101 pounds, and it claims to have an 11-year warranty. They put one more year on it to try to make people happy, I guess. It is not EMP hardened. It does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors, but it does have the heaters. So if you live in a cold environment, this battery may have some interest for you, being that it has heaters versus the EG4 that does not. But this one does not have any of the UL certifications. So if you're connected to the grid, you're going to have a problem with this battery, with your code enforcer. Fourth on the list, the Expert Power EP48100. Price is $1,049. Of course, it's the same size. All of these are 5.12 kilowatt hours, 100 amp hours. And the per kilowatt hour price is $204.88. Now that's the cheapest one on this list. We're going to go through sorting this list in different ways and show you which ones rise to the top, and then we'll recap it at the end. But this one is the cheapest one on the list that we have out of all 10. Per amp hour, we're looking $10.49, and it's 100 amp charge and 100 amp discharge. They did that right. 7,000 cycles, which matches EG4. And you can only max parallel 10 of them, though. So you can only do 10 of these batteries together. It's got an LED screen. It's 98 pounds with a 10-year warranty. And it does not have EMP hardening. It does not have rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors. It does not have the heaters to keep it operating in cold weather. But it does say that it has UL 1642 at cell level. So that they're saying that the cells inside of it have a certification under Underwriters Laboratory, but it does not have the ones required for you to connect it to the grid, which would be your UL 1973 and UL 9540. So, if you're connected to the grid, even though this sounds like a great deal, about $40, $39 cheaper per kilowatt hour, you might not pass inspection. Orient Power, the next one on the list, the Jackaper Pro V2. Same price as the EG4, $12.99. Same size, 5.12 kilowatt hours, 100 amp hours. Price per kilowatt hour is the same as the EG4 and the Epoch, $253.71, $12.99 per amp hour. 100 amps max amp charge and 100 amps discharge, which is good. 7,000 cycles, and it claims to have max parallel unlimited. That's interesting. That's the only battery I found that ever put unlimited in their specs. Display is an LED display. It's 99 pounds. It has a 10-year warranty. On the other things that are my hot buttons, it is not EMP hardened. Does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors or heaters, and it's only UL 1973 compliant or certified. So you might have a problem with code enforcement with this battery as well, even though it's the same price as the ones that do have the appropriate certifications. Next on the list is the Pites V5. Now, Pites has got a really good reputation. People that have these batteries talk about what a good build quality they have. I mean, come on, how much better can you build a battery? If you solder in your bus bar connections and things like that, how much better can you go? Okay, to me, that's the way to go. I'm looking for those kind of things. But the Pites V5 is $15.55 is the list price, 5.12 kilowatt hours, 100 amp hours. It's $303.71 per kilowatt hour, or $15.55 per amp hour. 100 amps charge and 100 amps discharge with 6,000 cycle battery life. You can max parallel 16 of them. It does not have a display. It's 97 pounds with a 10-year warranty. It is not EMP hardened. It does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors. It does have the heaters, and it does have the certifications you would need: UL 1973, UL 9540A, and UL 9540 ED2. Whatever that means, I'm not sure. But that's what they have listed, ED2. I will have to do some research into that. But if it does have UL 9540, it is definitely along with some other inverter, and I'm pretty sure Pites has that certification with the Solarc 15K. I'm 99.99% sure, because they're on their battery list. They're partners. But that partner list does just mean that they can communicate. But I got a feeling they went through the certification together. Part of that increase in that price. Next on the list is the Ruxu RX LFP 48100-H, $11.99, $100 cheaper than my EG4s. 5.12 kilowatt hours, 100 amp hours, $234.18 per kilowatt hour, or $11.99 per amp hour. 70 amps charge, 100 amps discharge. Now, I would like to be able to charge faster than that. See, to me, one of my hot buttons is being able to charge quick when a storm's coming, because they pop up real fast nowadays. 6,000 cycle battery life, 32 possible parallel together. That's the max parallel. And it has an LCD touchscreen. It's 103.6 pounds, and it's 10-year warranty. It is not EMP hardened. It does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors, but they were smart enough to put the heaters in for those folks living in the cold. That was pretty smart on their part, because it's a bang for the buck thing. Ruxu's trying to compete for that market, and he says it's UL 1973 and UL 9540A, which means the unit itself may have passed Underwriters Laboratory, and they're pending on trying to have the UL 9540 along with their new inverter that just came out. So the inverter just came out, just hit the market in the last few months, and I don't think they've gone through the testing yet, completed, or if they've done it, they haven't gotten the results. But expect it to be UL 9540 in the future, along with their inverter, which hasn't been on the market long enough for me to trust it personally. Go with God. If that's something you want to do, go right on ahead. I like other people to make mistakes with new equipment, and then I'll try it out. As far as ownership and buying money and going long term, I like trying anything out when it comes on the market, but I'm not counting my life on it. Next on the list is the ever popular SOK Pro. You're probably going to have to buy it from Current Connected because I have a hard time finding this battery anywhere else. And the price is $1252.25. It's a 5.12 kilowatt hour battery. It's 100 amp hours as well. $244.58 is the per kilowatt hour price, and $12.52 per amp hour. The max amp charge is 100 amps. The max amp discharge is 100 amps. And the cycle life is only 4,000. To me, that's the only knock on this battery. When I was first putting my system together and I decided to go with the 2 Solarcs, which if you haven't heard that story, you need to look at another video I've done, and I'll put a link in the description. But it's, I was going to go with the Solarc and the SOK, but at the time, the SOK batteries, which a lot of folks on the Solarc websites were saying that they had great results with the SOKs, go with the SOKs. And they could have closed loop communication, even though they're not listed as battery partners, which I find interesting. But the SOK battery at the time was about $17.50, I think the price was. So it was so much more than buying the EG4 batteries, which, better cycle life, better, what else? It's got all the other features, Fire Arrestors, total rapid shutdown, EMP hardening. I mean, come on. All right, so back to what we were talking about. It's only 4,000 cycles. Parallel, only 15 of them. It has an LCD screen, and it's 99.2 pounds with a 10-year warranty. It is not EMP hardened. It does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors or heaters. And it has UL 1973 and UL 9540. The last on the list is the Sun Gold SGH 48100T. $1320 is the price. Kilowatt hours 5.12. Amp hours is 100 amp hours. Price per kilowatt hour is $257.81. Price per amp hour is $1320. Max amp charge is only 70 amps. Max amp discharge is 100 amps, has a 7,000 battery cycle life, 32 in parallel, that's your max parallel, and it does not have a touch screen. It doesn't have a screen at all. It weighs 101 pounds. It has a 10-year warranty. It's not EMP hardened. It does not have total rapid shutdown. It does not have fire arrestors, but they were slick enough to put those heaters in there. Okay, so some folks might like it for that reason, but it doesn't have the certifications. I could not find Sun Gold's UL certifications anywhere. So if you're connected to the grid, you got to knock that puppy out. So that's them in alphabetical order. Okay, let's go through our list, and we're going to look at first, price. Everybody's favorite hot button. We sorted the list by price. As you can see, the cheapest one is the Expert Power. But if you're tied to the grid, look at that. Your UL certifications. What does UL 1942 at cell level mean other than that the cells are certified? So you're not going to pass inspection. You got to throw that out. The next cheapest one's going to be your MN PowerFlow 5 by Midnight Solar. That battery has the certifications you want, but you're going to have to go with their inverter. So if you want to go with a different inverter, you might not be able to use this battery. But at the same time, I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about Midnight Solar. Maybe they're not doing as good in marketing as other companies do, but the product seems to do well with the people that have it. The only knock I have on this battery is, other than the obvious of not EMP hardening, no total rapid shutdown or fire arrestors, is that the max amp charge is only 75 amps and the cycle life is down by 1,000. I could care less about a display screen. I don't really need it. It's nice to have, but I don't really need that. I could live without it. Next, price-wise, would be the Ruxu. Okay, so that one is, the $11.99, and then, but it's only 70 amps charge, It's 1,000 cycles less than what I have already, and half the number in parallel. It does have the heaters, which my batteries don't, but yeah, it's a good battery, I'm sure. I know Will Prouse loves their batteries, and I've seen other guys on the YouTube videos really praising Ruxu. I'm very interested in them myself. I'd like to get my hands on them, but to me, that's losing that 30 amps on the max A charge is the main knock, and then not having EMP harden or total rapid shutdown or fire arrestors. I like having all those features. To me, it's a features thing as much as it's just a price thing. For a little bit more, I want all the other features. I want the bells and the whistles. All right, I like fancy. SOK is the next one on the list, and we already kind of talked about that one. As far as price, it's the fourth in the list, but it's not that much cheaper than what I have now, and I get more features. So, and plus the cycle life on that one is just so low. So I'm not crazy about that. Orient Power comes in fifth, and then EG4 comes in sixth on this list, tied with the Epoch battery and the Orient Jackaper Power Pro. But we already know the Power Pro doesn't have the certifications we need, and neither does the Epoch. So if you're off grid, that wouldn't matter to you, but to me it would matter. Okay? And then further down the list, we get more expensive. We get into the Sun Gold, which doesn't have certifications but has a heater and less amp charge. And then the Pites, they're always proud of their stuff. Everybody seems to like them though. Sometimes you pay more and you're happy anyway. I guess you got deep pockets and that doesn't hurt you. The Indoor Energy to me is just overpriced. $2,150. Yeah, it's EMP hardened, but it's only 60 amps charge, 60 amps discharge, and you lose 1,000 in the cycle life. So, but yep, Expert Power is the cheapest. You can't be on the grid probably using it. So the cheapest one, based just on price, and still would meet the certifications if you did go with their battery, their inverter, if you did go with their inverter, would be the MN Power Flow 5 from Midnight Solar. But it's not that much cheaper than the EG4 LLS with the other features that I personally think are very valuable. All right, so next on the list, we're going to go through a sort by max amp charge. So on max amp charge, we can see that all of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are 100 amps. That's the EG4 LLS, the Expert Power EP48100, the Orient Power Jackaper Pro V2, the Pites V6, and the SOK Pro. Then we drop down to 75 amps at the MN Power Flow 5. Okay, so you lost 25 amps, but it's a little bit cheaper. Like I said, that one's pretty cheap. It's good bang for the buck. I think Midnight Solar is doing some good stuff. That's a company that's kind of on the rise, if you ask me. Then they have 3 in a row that are 70 amps, your Epoch, your Ruxu RX LFP 48100-H, and your Sun Gold SGH 48100T. All are 70 amps. And again, the Indoor Energy ESP 5100 is only 60 amps, and it's the most expensive on the list. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Then next, we're going to go through max amp discharge. All of them are max 100 amp discharge except for the Indoor Energy, which is the one with the least. And it's the most expensive. That just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you're EMP hardened. I know that costs money. I know EG4 spent a lot of money to get their stuff EMP tested. I get it. You want to make your money back. But you're not competitive anymore. Unless people just don't know. I don't know. They're just counting on ignorance, maybe? All right, so then we're going to go to cycle life real quick. Let's knock that chart out. Sorting by cycle life, we can see that the top 4 are 7,000 cycles. EG4 LLS, Expert Power EP48100, Orient Power Jackaper Pro V2, Sun Gold Power SGH 48100T, And as I stated earlier, the only one out of all of those that you pretty much can be sure that you're going to pass inspection, still tied to the grid, dealing with code, not off grid, is going to be the EG4 LLS. Next level is all 6,000 cycle lives. We've got the Endure Energy ESP5100, the Epoch battery, the MN PowerFlow 5, the Pites 5, V5, I'm sorry, Mr. Pites, the Pites V5, the Ruxu RX LFP 48100-H, and then the SOK Pro is only 4,000 cycles. Okay, longevity, something that is important always. Max parallel. So the EG4 beats the Orient Power beats everybody hands down because they claim to be unlimited, which I have a hard time believing that. But okay, you might have figured something out where you can make it infinite. But the ones with actual numbers, the EG4 LLS, the battery I have is a 64 max parallel. Then there's the Epoch battery at 32, along with the Ruxu battery at 32 in parallel, and the Sun Gold. The next group is going to be 16 in parallel, your Pites V5 and your MN PowerFlow 5. So the next one we have is only 15 in parallel, and that's the SOK Pro. The next group is going to be 10 in parallel, and that is, of course, the Endure Energy ESP5100 and the Expert Power EP48100. So I'm not going to go through warranty because all of them are pretty much 10 years. One says 11. Now let's look at EMP sort. The only two on the list, this is going to be quick, is the EG4 LLS and the Endure Energy ESP5100. And they're night and day in price. Okay, it's almost double. Price per kilowatt hour, you're looking at, with the EG4 LLS, $253.71 versus $419.92 for the Endure Energy. So if you're looking for EMP hardening and UL certifications, the EG4 LLS kicks their butt. That's all there is to it. So the next sort is going to be based on who has... Did I do fire suppressors? Let's look at the fire suppression. The only one on the list that has fire suppression is the EG4 LLS. So if that's what your hot button is, there's your answer. Self-heating, if you live in the cold areas, which I do not, so it's not that as important to me. So what's right for me may not be right for you folks. There's hardly ever one right answer for everyone. And there's only 4 of them that have the heaters, and that's the Ruxu battery, the RX LFP 48100H, and the H stands for heater, the Epoch battery, the Sun Gold SGH 48100T, and the Pites V5. So, if you need the certifications of the 9540, maybe that's how Pites is getting away with those prices and selling to people in colder weather situations. And I've seen them actually in that sort of environment on videos and people posting their systems online. So after looking at all of that, we have one more category we're going to sort by, and that is going to be the UL sort. Which ones have the UL certifications? And as we can see, the only ones with 9540, we have the EG4 LLS, has all the certifications you would need as long as you have an 18 kPV. The Pites V5 claims to have all the certifications except for the UL 9540. Theirs is ED2. I guess that's addition to. And I don't know which exact. Well, I think it's Solarc is going to be one of them. But it's got to be with some inverter. And I don't know if Pites have their own inverter. I'd have to look at that. If they have one, it's not very popular. And then we have the Midnight Solar MN PowerFlow 5. And that one, the certification is going to be with their new, the One inverter. which is an 11.8 kilowatt inverter as far as power continuous. Seems to be a nice unit. And then we have the Ruxu doesn't have the 9540 yet, but it probably will soon with their new inverter. And I know that the Endure Energy is the 9540, and I think that one also has a deal with Solar too, because I thought they were on their battery partner list. I don't know if it's still there. I don't always go back there because I saw some new. I went back there recently because I was talking to one of my clients, giving them some advice on solar consulting on their business, because they're a distributor, and they just wanted some advice from somebody that uses it more. He sells Solarc. He's going to sell Solarc. He's a new distributor, and he's going to sell Solarc. And I was pointing him to, the things he needed to think about when he's talking to his clients. Make sure that they understand that I'd have to have certain batteries to actually be compliant with 9540, because he's started as a generator install company, and now he's become a distributor for solar equipment. So, we need to keep that in mind when we're making our decisions, because you might you think this inverter is great. Oh, I love this inverter. And then, you go, oh, well, this battery, it's a good price and it's bang for the buck to me, and blah, 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 blah. And the math makes a lot of sense to you. But then it comes time to install everything, and you have to be connected to the grid, and the code enforcer says, well, this is not 9540 compliant, because it's got to be the inverter and the batteries tested together. So keep that in mind. Make your decisions wisely. But to me, based on my needs, where I live, not in the cold, which takes the self-heating thing out for me on my server rack batteries, I went with EG4, and I'm very happy with the batteries. I went with them. Another reason was I saw that a lot of people were happy with their older batteries, even though they have gotten better at making their batteries. They've changed the BMS. They've changed a lot of things on the batteries and made them more feature rich. And the price is still good. It's $12.99. It's not much different from the cheapest one on this list. The cheapest one on the list is the PowerFlow 5. But I'm $200. That's the only difference. But I'm gaining EMP hardening, total rapid shutdown, and fire arrestors. And I could parallel more of them if I want to. Okay? And my max amp charge is 25 amps higher. And that's another one of my hot buttons. So for 4 hot button reasons, I would pick the EG4 LLS for $200 more than the PowerFlow 5 from Midnight Solar, which I'm sure is a fine battery, because of the max amp charge is 25 amps less, and I don't have the EMP hardening, I don't have the rapid shutdown, and I don't have fire arrestors. That's my decision. That's my decision. It doesn't have to be yours. So I'm just arming you with information. Like I always tell my firearms students, I am also a firearms instructor, registered with the Louisiana State Police Concealed Handgun Unit. There is no one right answer for everyone. We got to find out what your unique situation needs. Then we start looking at what you may want, because needs and wants are two different things. And if you're not mature enough to understand that, boy, you're going to make some mistakes. In summary, I'm very happy with my purchase. I'm sure other people may have different opinions. If you're off-grid, a lot of the other things may not matter to you, like code, UL certifications. You may be more interested in heaters because you live in a cold weather environment and you don't have to meet code. So you could go with one of the cheaper batteries that have, those heaters. But I live in the city and I still have to deal with code. I started with a grid-tied system and slowly evolved to what I have now. And if you're going to be adding a little piece at a time, remember, you can't just say, I'm going to go out and buy this battery, it's on sale, without thinking about what it's going to be connected to if you live in the city, because you might have to get a certain inverter depending on what battery purchase you make. So you got to think about the whole system. You can't just, even though you're doing it a little at a time as you get the money, which I did myself, you got to have a plan. You have to have a plan. Otherwise, you may find yourself trying to sell what you bought so that you can, deal with something else. So probably start with the inverter first and then go to your batteries is probably the smart way to go. That's what I would advise. But all of these things matter. Do your research, make sure you're making the right purchase so you don't have any regrets. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I like bringing this information to you because I'm fascinated by what's going on in this market. And we're working on editing that pergola video. My pergola's up, it's working fine. It's a lot of raw footage I gotta wade through, from how to make the footings, how to measure, what materials to buy. That's coming out soon. I can't wait to get it to you and see how you guys react. So if you liked what you saw today, please share it. Please click like and subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. The more you help the algorithm, the more I can do this, put more time and energy and effort into this. I would like to do that for you. I'd like to do that for me because it's fun. So y'all take care, keep your batteries charged, and always watch the weather because it's going to change what you're doing with your system, I promise you.
Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed our video.
Just one step closer to your